The first day of training camp has come and gone, and we here at Only Weird Games are already in mid-season form. I have some pretty big news to share. Nate Taylor was doing whatever he could to get back in time for this show from St. Joe, and Seth Keysor couldn't figure out how to make his microphone work with his laptop. So, welcome to football season, everybody. It's going to be a lot more of this. We'll do a quick little check-in and just make sure everybody's doing okay. We almost had to put Seth on the PUP list to start training camp, and we might put him on the TUP list. The technologically unable to perform list is going to be named in Seth's honor at some point. But we're all here right now, and Seth, I just want to go straight to you and just let's get one more little audio check, because right before we started, it sounded okay, and then some bad noises started happening. And you're looking buff from this angle. Your shot's like 90% forearms, Popeye.
Hello.
Yeah,
it can't
It's good
possibly
enough.
be worse than what it was when I couldn't hear you guys, but I could see you guys.
Yeah, well, no, it is better than no audio to crackling audio, but we'll take what we get from you here, Seth, because I do want to hear from you on some of the news of the day. Nate, you are up in St. Joe for the literal news of today, which is pretty substantial considering what we're going to be talking to. How was the first day in St. Joe?
The first day in St. Joe was great. If you're not aware, ladies and gentlemen, Andy Reid brought us up to camp technically on day 0, which was Sunday, just for him to tell us who wasn't going to practice today and to do the ceremonial welcome back. So today was day 1 in St. Joseph, Missouri. There were plenty of fans. Yeah, I mean, God bless him. As part of the acclimation period, Andy Reid conducted a 68-minute practice. I kid you not. Just not what I'm used to, but we still got plenty to talk about just because of some of the decisions that were made today that, as training camp moves forward, we'll see how much those stay relevant. But in 68 minutes, we got quite a bit, stuff that'll make Seth happy and stuff that'll make Seth really infuriated.
Yeah, there are a few of those things. And Seth, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, because I don't think you can read the comments in the private section from Tucker right now either. We're just going to kind of ride your mute button a little bit. And we'll call on you. You can raise your hand if you'd like. And we're just going to, this is going to be a very polite show today, just to make sure everything sounds all right. And so I will go ahead and give you my extra little bit of news that came out earlier today.
Yeah.
We've celebrated a lot of things on this show. Nate going to ESPN, Seth learning how to buy a microphone on Amazon. Like, there have been lots of big signposts in this show's history that have really kept us moving. But today, it's out there now. You can read it and see the beautiful graphic the folks put together. You can see officially now, I will be spending this season as the pregame and postgame show host for the Chiefs radio network, which is as wild to say as it must be for anyone else to hear. It is an honor. It is a tremendously exciting opportunity, and you can't hear it for obvious reasons, but Seth's going ham right now in the box in the middle. I'm really excited. There's going to be extra pregame on the flagship station right here in Kansas City, 96.5 The Fan. I'll be on with them again throughout this season as I was last year, but now the step up into the big time, pregame, postgame host on the Chiefs radio network. I am really excited. I am extremely grateful for a truly silly number of texts and tweets and posts from across the internet that I've gotten to some of today, in the way that Nate so eloquently broke down a couple shows back. I'm going to spend a lot of tonight catching up on some of those.
Yep.
It is very cool to be able to have another one of these days where you get to announce something awesome, and then people who either have enjoyed my work over the years, or especially people who were supporting me from like a family level from way before any of this was even a vision. It's been a very cool day, and it's been a very cool process. So appreciate everyone who has extended their congratulations. Appreciate everyone who has in so many different ways have supported what I've done over the last decade or so, which is crazy. And I'm really, really excited for what's next. So appreciate everybody for being a part of this. It literally wouldn't be possible. I feel like I'm going to have to chase things that Nate said much better a couple weeks ago or whatever.
Fine. Nah,
but
don't do that.
The amount, well, I'm not gonna take your tennis analogy, certainly, but the village that it takes, as Matt Lane says, I wore that guy's penguin suit, and as official host of the Chiefs pre-post game show. Thank you, Matty Lane. The village it takes to support anyone through a period of time going, I think I want to talk about sports professionally, and getting up through so much of the radio industry, being kind of at peace with it, and then having some things happen these last couple of years that have sucked me right back in. I'm just very honored, very grateful, and very, very excited to get going. It starts with the preseason, by the way, so
hell yeah. Let's go.
Or about 20 some more times this season, and we'll try to do this all the way to the Super Bowl.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is obviously amazing. Congratulations, my dear friend. I now
Thank you.
Have to get the dates right, okay, kids? Because you, ladies and gentlemen, as you listen to the show, as you are perhaps viewing it, as we continue to put Seth in the penalty box that is the middle of this screen, I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that on Saturday, August 9th, you don't be behind the wheel of a vehicle, but you, on the night of of August 9th, Saturday, when the Chiefs go up to Arizona to play the Arizona Cardinals in the preseason opener, you can call Josh Brisco, and you can drunkenly tell him why so-and-so needs to be cut from the roster immediately, and get it out there quick before they cut you off. But August 9th, I want you there. Blast it out of your mind after the first preseason game, but not behind the wheel of a vehicle.
You can try, you can look for some phone numbers, but I will not make any of those promises. I think pretty distinctly, I think it is going to be different in a lot of ways, but in ways that I am really, really excited about. Not that I didn't enjoy many of those drunken callers, but
they were so good.
Really good.
Back in the day, it was so good. It made the experience knowing that my friend was honestly, from a jiu-jitsu standpoint, like a jiu-jitsu master, but just to watch some drunken person, usually a guy, try to combat him, and Josh go,
it's October.
What he was trying to say is the defense is going to get better over the course of the season, and thanks for the call.
It'll be a different vibe this time through. I'm really, really excited, and again, just very grateful. This is a top 3 social media day. I think it's really hard to unseat almost dying and then waking back up and seeing on social media how glad people were that I wasn't dead. That's a pretty tough one to beat. This might be second right now. It's good stuff out here.
So look. Let's go biblical, Seth. This
Seth, man turn on Seth's mic. We're going biblical.
This man said, I mean, who's to say I haven't lived a similar life like Lazarus?
It was a good day. I mean, it was a good day in a lot of ways because I wasn't dead. I thought for a second there, I mean, it looked like I was going to be. So, I mean, I didn't think about it. I wasn't aware, but
you weren't aware. I know.
Other people were.
So miracles do happen.
Miracles do happen. I can't wait to listen to you pregame and postgame I'm not shy about saying that your post-game show has always been the one that I listen to. It's been really cool this offseason seeing both of you guys get these huge steps that you guys have been working for years. And I'm doing this on my phone because I can't figure out how to get the laptop to do the thing. So if anyone's wondering, well, I wonder what this announcement is going to be.
Hey, Apple Podcast says this is the Chiefs the best podcast about the Chiefs. So hey, we're doing a lot of things right.
We're doing well. I turned off the air conditioning in the room I'm in, thinking maybe that was the bad audio. I've got it handheld a little closer to me. That's the bad audio.
Oh my God.
To our listening people, man, I hope this doesn't sound terrible. Because
it sounds better than you think, given the circumstances.
It sounds good compared to where we were post Tucker putting the bus.
Yeah, when I tried a Bluetooth, everyone immediately went, "Oh, that's so much worse." But it's just awesome to be able to tell both of you how proud I am of both of you, and it's going to be really, really cool to listen to you make post game shows entertaining in like a good way. Not like a, wow, that dude's been tailgating since 9 a.m. kind of way. Like,
and this
more
is a
like
primetime game.
Yeah, it's like, and like, so those, I love good pregame and good postgame shows. They're hard to find. And I'm really excited to see what you bring to the table there. You're going to crush it like you always do. Nate, you're going to keep crushing it like you always do. And me, I will be here, unable to make my sound or audio work. People will be like, why doesn't Seth get a bigger gig in the media? Look, you know why. Like, come on. And don't pretend it's because I've got a day job. Like, that might be part of it, but not really. It's more it's
a pretty important one compared to
anyone with a real reach sees moments like this, and they're like, yeah. People are like, we can't rely on that guy. Although, since I am appearing via phone today, I have a much more mobile camera situation. And so, keep in mind, we're using my office for storage, so it's a little bit of a mess, and Jazz is going to kill me. But feast your eyes on this beauty.
Ooh.
Wow, the bike is built
here. It's
several hundred calories were burned right there.
Putting that together.
In the best shape of his life.
My salvation was lost putting that together. The calories were burned thereafter. But man, I'm excited to talk ball with you guys because there's actual football to talk, as I sound like I'm coming in from a tin can, I'm sure.
No, you sound better, and I think I don't want you to sell yourself short, Seth. You're also going to continue crushing it, being the audio quality of this program.
And look, before we get into this, because you're going to have to carry us here.
We're at the 13-minute mark. I feel the walls closing in, man. I think, go ahead.
You're going to have to carry us here in a minute, Seth. But considering the world needs to be shown what a healthy marriage looks like, I mean, we got to put her on screen today. I mean, there's such a mobile ability to do this. We got to put her on screen. We got to put her on screen.
It's vacation. It's vacation Bible school week. She's already gone, and I've got to duck out early. I do think as soon as she saw me walking through while we were prepping.
Not anymore. You don't have to duck out early. You take us with you. How about that? Duck out early. Duck out and
I don't hate the sound of that. I do think as soon as Jazz saw me walking around with my phone and saw that the podcast was on my phone, she was like, she just noped right out of here because that was going to happen. So another day, I keep asking Jazz if she'd make an appearance, and she has humbly demurred so far, but we'll see. But I do want to know what she thinks of George Karlaftis' new contract, frankly.
Or the injury news and the tackle situation, right? There's so much. There's genuinely a lot to get to since Thursday's show. We had planned to talk about George Karlaftis some and the idea of a pending extension for him popping up onto the radar a few days prior. But now the deal is done. George Karlaftis is going to be in Kansas City for a very long time. There's a lot of interesting stuff throughout this George Karlaftis extension. I'm interested how both of you guys have summarized it some. But Tucker, I know you got the graphic with a bunch of the big shiny numbers. Let's pull that up here. George Karlaftis' new deal with the Kansas City Chiefs is a 6-year deal in total, including the 2 years that he had remaining, the 4th year and the 5th year option. So it goes 6 years worth a total of a little over $105 million, an average annual value of about $17.6 million. Again, that's when you're including the 2 years still on the deal. $88 million in new money over 4 years for an average of 22 per. $62 million total injury guaranteed, full guaranteed at signing, $32 million. Some incentives in there as well. A big part of the conversation pretty early on shifted into what's new money versus this 4-year number, 6-year number. I can kind of play both sides of wanting, air quotes, wanting to talk about the 22 per and the extension, or talk about the 17 and a half or so, including these 2 years. Seth is showing us the Chief of the North newsletter. That's good, because I was probably not going to mention that today. Let's start there. Nate, how did that come together, the Karlaftis deal? Were you surprised to see it come down when it did? What do you make of the numbers there for Karlaftis?
The numbers are, I think, a positive in a number of ways, because it's already a good looking deal on site. And then when you know the salary cap's going to go up and Micah Parsons doesn't have a deal, TJ Watt just got a new deal. Will Trey Hendrickson ever return to Cincinnati? Who knows? But those guys are going to get more money, and you could say deservedly so, than George Karlaftis. So this is a very team-friendly deal, while you're also securing the services of a guy basically through the rest of his 20s, in essence. And at the same time, you got this done before training camp. So it's not something where it doesn't have to be sort of a complication. The Chiefs can now, as I've reported, focus squarely on Trent McDuffie between now and the start of the regular season. So that helps. So think about this. In terms of the second wave of guys who are supposed to surround Patrick Mahomes, you now have Nick Bolton, you have Trey Smith, you've already done Creed Humphrey, of course. Now you have George Karlaftis, and the potential of getting Trent McDuffie done basically within a year's time. If you remember, ladies and gentlemen, Creed Humphrey got his deal done right before the start of the regular season as well. So, in about a year, you could lock up 5 core guys. Yes, they're now in the core. Core 14, I don't know, but they're all important. And for George, he made it very clear today that he knew he could get a deal done. He knows he's eligible. It's more money than maybe he believed he was going to make in the NFL, but he's been so consistent, and you want to get so ahead of it, and you want to strike even before you reach your athletic prime, that it does the Chiefs a really big, solid benefit to you. And we've talked about this before, or he talked about this today. Hey, I had, Frank Clark, who was supposed to, who had a big contract that led to Chris Jones's 2 big contracts. Now, Chris Jones is the senior, and the guy that is under him is George Karlaftis, and the presumption is Chris will hand off the reins to George, who's already in place, so that doesn't have to complicate things based on how they already work as a 1-2 pair. It's something where the player has to be motivated to do it, and this is also something where I don't think the player wanted to maximize his value as much, because he wanted to be with the team, because he knows he already fits the system, he fits the culture, the coaching staff adores him. So yeah, you're gonna make top 10 money, and it's just gonna go down as the years go along.
Seth, what was your hesitance before this deal got done? What happened to warm you up to it a little bit? Because I don't think you've ever argued that George Karlaftis should be paid like a top 10 defensive end. Where did you start here, and then how much have you moved after getting the details of the deal?
The stuff that I've talked about in previous weeks in terms of keeping Karlaftis around long term centered around cost. My assumption was he would want to start contract negotiations based on what a tag might look like, what the fifth-year option looks like, and what the market looks like for let's say, I assumed it wouldn't start till next offseason.
Right.
It's what the market looks like for a 25-year-old productive pass rusher, even one with some limitations. Tershawn Wharton just got $18 million per. And Karlaftis is a better player than him. So my hesitation was, generally speaking, what you usually see with extensions or free agent signings for good but not great players is they get paid great money. That's just how it is. There's not usually a middle class in the NFL. That's why when people always say things like, oh, well, you could take that money, you could pay for a superstar, and you could get 3 good players. That's not usually how it works.
Right.
Here's though where you see a classic example of when you get a contract done early, it can benefit you because it's a true extension. You tack it on to the end. George Karlaftis' salary cap hits will be pretty much the same this year and next year as they would have been. And then you lock him in on a per year rate. So like his salary cap hits, and I guess, credit where it's due. Florio reported it. So I'll say Florio reported it.
What's your points with the Pablo Torre stuff? I'm not saying I'm warming up on 04.
So if you look at the cap hits here, the 23, 25, 22 million, that's kind of like the new money looking type deal stuff. And someone might look at that and say, oh, wow, they're paying Karlaftis right up there in kind of like the third tier of pass rushers. But the thing is, you can't separate this from the first 2 years. Really what you end up is you're going to have him locked down for the next 5 years at essentially about $17.6 million a year. And you have that long-term control, which is what you didn't have before. You didn't really have that before when you had, the fourth year and then the fifth year option, because then the next year would have, gone up. And I'm sure they took a look at what the tag would have been. So when you get it done sooner rather than later, it allows you to lower that average per year because you have to start from a different negotiating point. So really, right now, what Karlaftis is getting paid, he's not close to the top 10 per year. And really like the max guys, I mean, forget TJ Watt is $41 million a year.
That's insane.
Myles Garrett, $40 million a year. And then it jumps down a tier, right?
Yeah.
Daniel Hunter, Max Crosby, Nick Bosa, 34, 35 million a year. Then it drops down another tier. Josh Hines-Allen, Brian Burns, 28 mil. Then it drops down another tier, and I'm not going to name everyone. It's a couple guys at 24 million. Then it drops down another tier, 23 to 19-ish million. Then finally another tier is where Karlaftis is right now. And that's for 5 years. And the great thing about, those cap hits that are going to come up in year 3, 4, and 5, they are relatively similar to Trey Smith. They're relatively static at that point. And with Trey Smith, they're eating a little more money in the first 2 years than they normally do with the way they structure these deals. With Karlaftis, it's because they got it done so early, they're able to do this. So you're going to have Karlaftis in 3 years costing you $23 million when the salary cap's growing by, let's say conservatively, it only grows by $15 million 2 years in a row. That's conservative. So you $30 million total. Well, now your percentage of the salary cap has changed by, up to 10%. It's just this huge shift there. So I'm much warmer on this because this is a price I didn't think they could sign him at. This is a good price for a good player. It's a fair price for what he brings to the table. And it's a good deal for the Chiefs in that getting a fair price on a useful but not great player hardly ever happens unless you kind of luck out, right? You got to take on like an injury risk or something. And here, you don't have to take on more of an injury risk than normal. You don't have to guess how he'll play in your system. You don't have to guess whether he'll be loved in the building. You don't have to guess how well he fits in with by far your best player who didn't show any signs of slowing down last year. Karlaftis and Jones work well together. So I am much more when you hear the rumors that, well, they're focusing on Karlaftis next instead of McDuffie. I wanted to flip out because I was like waiting for like some 28 per year, like true rip up the old contract and start over completely. They didn't do that here. Much more in favor of the price is super reasonable. That's also why this gets done down and Trent McDuffie's doesn't, because McDuffie and Albert Breer said that one might be tougher. Well,
it is tougher, kids. It ain't no might. It's going to be tougher.
Karlaftis is willing to, So Karlaftis made clear he wants to be here. He prioritized it. I also think if Karlaftis knows ball, and I think he does, I think it's probably in his best interest to get an extension done before Chris Jones is no longer the primary pass rusher. Because those numbers, it's going to be tough to keep them the same. Here's the thing with McDuffie. He's just getting better every year. The cornerback market keeps flipping out. He's got no real reason to do it with 2 years left. And so the price is just going to keep going up on him. So that's why I think Albert Breer alluded to that. That's going to be a tougher negotiation simply because Karlaftis, I'm sure even his agent didn't try to argue he's a top 10 pass rusher. They might have argued top 20 and, useful player, all that stuff. Whereas McDuffie's agent is going to walk into the room and say, he might be the best. Yeah. He might be the best fit for Steve Spagnuolo's defense in the entire NFL.
Top 3 on a good day.
Yep. And so that's going to be a tougher one.
Also an ongoing thing. I don't think it'd be that tough to say, hey, Trent McDuffie, here's $31 million a year, but maybe I'm oversimplifying. It could be a tough check to write.
I ain't going inside till I get paid.
Oh God, if that's going on, they should have paid him at the beginning of last year. Then let's take a timeout. I want to nitpick on a couple things with that George Karlaftis comments from Seth. Plus, looking ahead a little bit to where McDuffie lines up, literally and figuratively. We'll talk about that inside of the break.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Folks, there's nothing that beats relaxing on a hot summer day and watching some baseball. And there's no simpler way to get in on the action than by downloading the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. And the best part, Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6, and right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, we got a little load management for the veteran Nate Taylor, and I think Seth has now plugged his phone into a power source to try to make that work. We're gonna do it. We got topics to get to. I got things I'm excited to talk about. I don't care if you both leave me. I'm gonna sit here by myself and I'm gonna talk to this webcam and I'm gonna talk about Josh Simmons. If it's got to be me, it'll be me. Seth, the little nitpicking I want to do on the Karlaftis thing, it's a little bit with the mental math of, well, it's $17.5 million basically. That's a great deal. Part of the advantage of like having your rookie contract players play really good football is that you get them at a tremendous rate at the end of their rookie contracts. Like, obviously, I understand why they wanted to get this deal done now, but it really is still like that 22-ish million for those 4 new years. Again, depending on exactly where those settle out. And Florio didn't have 2027, and Spot Track doesn't have the cap details yet. So we still have a little bit of mystery around that. The thing for me with the Karlaftis deal, and you already used some of these terms, but he's a very good player getting great money, but it's at a premium position. Of the 3 big, like, keep your guys home contracts the Chiefs gave out, Nick Bolton, Trey Smith, and George Karlaftis, this one is the one position that is expensive to fill with average. If you have an average guard, and I mean like real average, like you kind of forget he's in there. If somebody else's guard, you wouldn't know his name. You can get a cheap average guard. Trey Smith is being paid elite best interior lineman in football money to be an elite guard. So his standard is there. Nick Bolton is being paid very good money in a less premium position, but he's getting a bonus for having a big brain in the middle of that defense that helps Spags out that way. Karlaftis could continue to be a very good player and I think still be worth roughly what he's getting as the market adjusts in the back half. I think the Chiefs are probably telling you they think there's another step coming, because otherwise, why not go ahead and have this conversation this time next year? I do think the franchise tag never made sense for Karlaftis because the number that would have been. The franchise tag does make sense for Trent McDuffie because that will be lower than what he's negotiating for. So I do think I think there's mathematical logic for all of this. I would say my Karlaftis take here is that I kind of like it, and I would really like it if there is a 15 or 20% jump left in Karlaftis' game. I think you got to treat this like he's going to be within 10%, the same guy that he was last year over the course of the deal, because it's very hard. It's guys improve or decrease a little bit over time. It's very hard to leap between years. But if you think, he's probably going to be roughly this guy over the next 5 to 6 years, nothing in football is guaranteed. George Karlaftis continuing to have 5 or 6 years of consistent, high floor, high snap count edge play, it's not guaranteed, but it does feel like a good bet in terms of the position they're paying and the player that is holding that spot.
And that was a really great way of framing it when you talk about positional value. And we talked about this a little bit with the tackle conversation. You really shouldn't just talk about positional value in the sense of how valuable it is on the field, but how hard it is to replace. Like, what's the availability of options? You are not going to replace George Karlaftis' level of play absent, lightning strike of really good luck, which that happens sometimes. Everyone can be like, well, there was this 3rd rounder who did. Yeah, sometimes, but that's luck. And anyone saying otherwise, they're kind of lying to you. Because I love how teams we knew this guy was going to be a great player and they drafted him in the 4th round. It's like, yeah, but still. So there's that replaceability factor. You weren't going to replace him without a 1st round pick, or having to spend at least that much in free agency in terms of having a starter caliber, complementary pass rusher who is the same regardless of competition. That's kind of important. Now, that can be a negative thing. Karlaftis doesn't usually dominate average to mediocre blockers the way that you'd like to see an elite player do. But he also, he gets kind of those same types of, no matter who he's playing, he's wildly annoying to play with a ridiculous motor that never quits, that makes quarterbacks pay for getting off their spot, that'll crush the pocket multiple times in the game, not an elite number of times, but enough to be useful, who will also be pretty solid against the run, will play well in pursuit. He's that guy, whether he's going up against Trent Williams or Joe Nobody. There's value in that. There's value in consistency. There's value in knowing that he's the same guy on the biggest stage, and they know that. So I think you make a good point in terms of the deals they've handed out. The least financially responsible one was Trey Smith, but he is by far the best of the 3 players.
Right.
And so there's all these things that they're really trying to figure out. With Karlaftis, I like that you make a good point that, the new money for those 4 years, it falls into the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, probably the 4th-ish tier of pass rusher pay right now. The great thing is that doesn't kick in and you lock in that price today.
Exactly.
Here's the analogy.
This is a better argument to me. This is my preferred argument on the Chiefs side here is you're locking in a number in advance and you think your player's going to make you right.
I don't know if someone outside of Minnesota is going to get this, but you are prepaying for your propane in August. It's August prices, baby. That stuff's $1.25 a gallon right now. You want to refill your propane in February? Dude, you are going to be paying through the nose. They locked down George Karlaftis in August. I mean, July.
I think they locked him down in this analogy in like September, maybe, right? Like, I mean, it's early. It's still expensive. That's the other thing I wanted to just mention. It's not a this isn't Mike Dana's deal. Like, this is real, actual money.
Yes.
But if he's exactly the guy that he's been, I don't think the Chiefs are going to be feeling the pain of this deal in 3 years.
Right. It's not foundational player money. It's getting there. It's not quite there. McDuffie's going to cost foundational money.
It's kind of Jawan Taylor-ish money, like in kind of that tier.
Right. And that's where, Jawan Taylor is yet again a good example of the mistake of paying decent to good players higher level money. You got to be careful about that foundational money. So I'm happy with it because of that. Locking in the price, still expensive. Propane still costs money, but it's a lot better than probably the alternatives that were presented. So good on him for letting his representation know, hey, I actually want to get this done early. Maybe I leave a few mil on the table. It's not a team-friendly deal for the timing that it's done, but he chose to do it now, and that puts a little more of the risk on the team. So, or a little more of the risk on him too, because you never know what could have happened. So I'm happy, and now they can get Trent McDuffie foundational money.
So let's hit on this real quick, and then I know you got to get out of here too. My hunch and the nitpicking I'll do on the McDuffie deal, I don't think that there's any reason for it to be a difficult negotiation. I think it would be an expensive negotiation. I think it could be a little bit of a spicier deal because he has a legitimate argument for resetting the cornerback market. But if George Karlaftis had a real argument for resetting the cornerback market or the defensive end market, you also would have known where to begin, right? Like,
right.
Trey Hendrickson is a problem because he's older than you want him to be paying that level, and because he's a Bengal, not because we just can't figure out what defensive ends get paid. Now, what I think is interesting here, and again, cards on the table. I would have prioritized Trent McDuffie over Nick Bolton, Trey Smith, George Karlaftis. I feel like there was another one I was going to throw in there just for kicks. Like Trent McDuffie for me is Chris Jones, Trent McDuffie. This is your defensive hierarchy, and then you fill in behind him. All right, I understand what the window is for extending him, but Trent McDuffie had a lower fifth-year option than George Karlaftis, about $13.5 million versus about $15 million. And they have the franchise tag now open in 2027, where, again, tagging McDuffie would make sense because he's looking for number one money, and you're giving that average of that top five, right? Karlaftis, you could not franchise tag him because now he's getting paid the average of whatever, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, whoever you're doing it 2027. Now, if McDuffie plays on the tag in 2027, I'm not optimistic about 2028 and beyond. That's a very hard spot to get out of. But I think worst case scenario, air quotes here, the Chiefs have 3 more years of Trent McDuffie at less than he's worth, financially speaking.
Yes.
Because this year, the 5th year, and even the franchise tag. However, I would still like them to pay him. There was a report out of St. Joe today that with Christian Fulton being out, which I'll talk about in a minute, that Shamari Connor was back in the slot and Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie were on the outside, and that I could hear Seth groan from Minnesota, knowing that. You can do whatever you want with the Trent McDuffie conversation. Seth, where do you land right now? How does the Karlaftis deal change it in however much time you got left?
And you know what? I do like the idea of me trying to let's just see how it goes as I move along.
It's just the two of us now. If you have to walk out, that's fine. I'll kick you out once you get into the car, probably.
But the big thing with McDuffie, the Karlaftis deal doesn't really change that much, and that's one reason I like it. It got done early enough; it doesn't have to change the math with McDuffie. He doesn't really have a reason to sign because he can just play this out and get more money. That's just kind of how it is. And he, again, has an argument for being one of the best 3 players at his position in the NFL in a way that Trey Smith did. And you notice Trey Smith, it got reported by a friend, KCSN fellow friend worker guy, Matty V, that the Chiefs made Trey Smith. an offer last year. Colleague, there's the word. They made him an offer last year. It was apparently a good offer, but it wasn't market resetting, and Trey Smith made a bet on himself. Trent McDuffie has every reason to do that too, because the price of the brick just goes up year by year. And at corner, that same thing is going to happen. McDuffie's a foundational player. He's worth elite money. It's pretty simple. That's how that should end up going down. And I know some people have said, well, the Chiefs have shown that they can draft corners and develop them. They can. They've shown they can draft corners and develop them into good players or passable players. They got one elite year out of L'Jarius Sneed. Before that, he was good, but not elite. Trent McDuffie is a notch above those guys. And including L'Jarius Sneed got all the attention his last year. McDuffie was a better player that year, too. Now it's pretty close because Sneed was awesome that year. But McDuffie is one of the best corners in the NFL. He's also maybe one of the most versatile. And those are two slightly different things. And being both is incredible. He can play anywhere on the defense. So you pay the guy. I'm perfectly fine with that, especially with all that money they're going to be saving with a franchise left tackle who's on a rookie deal. Because we have one training camp video, Josh, and it's over, man. I tried to spread awareness today, like, people don't freak out. And then I started freaking out. So
yeah, I noticed that. You freaked out so hard, you punched your laptop, snapped your microphone over your knee, and I don't know, trashed a bunch of cords. As you move even a foot, your connection struggles. So I'm going to go ahead and dismiss you, Mr. Keysor, for the remainder of today's class. Thank you for being here. I either will talk about that O-line shuffle or alone, or perhaps with a special guest momentarily. Thank you, Seth.
All right.
This feels like doing a radio show again. You got to hang up. You got to leave. You just hit close it, exit. There we go. Couple of things that I find interesting about this, and maybe I'll just talk about it for a while. Ooh, look at this. I got a solo shot. Fantastic. You can see more of my posters and all of my piplups. Let's go ahead and talk about the franchise left tackle who's an incumbent from day one. Is that overstating things? Of course it is. The bad news was that Andy Reid got to St. Joe, told reporters, hey, Jawaan Taylor, Christian Fulton, both starting on the physically unable to perform list, the PUP, with knee issues. Well, that's a bummer on a variety of levels. Fulton, as I just mentioned, you remove him from the conversation, and now suddenly Trent McDuffie is living on the outside again, even in those sub packages. McDuffie's great on the outside when he's one of the two guys on one of the two corners on the field. I just want him to be in the slot as often as possible and let Shamari Connor play safety. Well, today they went straight back to Shamari Connor in the slot, McDuffie and Watson on the outside. You hope Fulton's back soon. Andy Reid said he thinks Jawaan Taylor appears to be closer. They're hoping it's, quote, relatively fast, but Andy Reid said Jawan's probably closer right now. Cornerback thing, Fulton thing, really stinks. Got to keep an eye on it. We'll see what happens as the days and perhaps most likely weeks go by. We'll keep an eye on Christian Fulton. The tackle situation, everybody, has gotten very interesting. Today, with the first team, one of the only things I think that can matter in shorts, in training camp practices before the pads come on, who gets out there first? Who, generally speaking, is on the field with Patrick Mahomes? Because as Andy Reid talks about all the time, as we talk about when we talk about Andy Reid camps, you're not wasting any reps. No one's out there with the first team just for kicks and giggles. So Jawaan Taylor is not practicing. He's on the PUP list. The starting offensive line, according to Nate Taylor of ESPN, Josh Simmons at left tackle, Kingsley Suamataia at left guard, Creed Humphrey at center, Trey Smith at right guard, Jalen Moore at right tackle. If you need to fan yourself or just settle into your chair a little bit, this is the time to do so. I think this matters. I think Josh Simmons getting the first crack at left tackle is as big of a day one training camp story as you can possibly have. Because if he looks good there to start, when the pads come on, with the mental aspect, you have to be able to do both like in the mental fortitude and then just knowing your job, knowing what's going on around you, seeming comfortable in that position, likely going up against some real motors at defensive end, your George Karlaftis, your Charles Amenahus, maybe Chris Jones bounces out there. If Josh Simmons asserts himself at left tackle, Jawaan Taylor coming back is not going to remove him from that spot. I'd be really surprised if that happened. If Jawaan Taylor came back, all we've had is good reports on Josh Simmons. All we've seen is good stuff from Josh Simmons. And then Moore moves to left tackle. Taylor comes into right. And we just don't hear from Josh Simmons except for on the second team again. I'd be very surprised. If Simmons is in any way shaky, if he's physically not quite where he wants to be, even as his right tackle currently is not playing, even if he's physically not where he wants to be, if mentally it's just moving a little bit fast, if you think, hey, we really like Josh Simmons, but we don't want to kick him into a Kingsley Suamataia situation that we ended up backing out of after less than 2 games last year, then you don't have to rush Josh Simmons into anything. I am totally tickled to have Jalen Moore on this football team, especially if Jawaan Taylor's issue is nagging, is something that ends up barking at him through the season. We heard a little bit here and there of Jawaan Taylor and some knee issues last year, but we never got I don't think a full picture of it. I'm not sure what's going on there. But they have 3 tackles now who can be in that rotation. They have what I think are actual genuine options that you'd be pretty happy with in both of those positions. And then right out of the gate, Josh Simmons has the opportunity to step into the position battle with the most eyeballs on it all throughout St. Joe. And Josh Simmons gets to saddle up and say, all right, I'm in my spot right now. My feet are set here right now. It does not mean that his feet will be there in week 1, but I do believe it means that he will not have his feet removed from that spot by just dominoes falling. I do not think a healthy Jawaan Taylor removes Josh Simmons by default. I think now Simmons and maybe Jalen Moore gets moved by default. Maybe Jalen Moore is now your $20 million swing tackle. All 3 of these guys have had injury issues recently. All 3 of these guys are going to play regular season football. It's just going to happen the way that the sport goes. It should not surprise anyone. But the Chiefs have a good problem right now. 3 capable tackles on a team that last year had 1 for most of the season. And Josh Simmons gets a chance to hit the ground running that way. Tucker D. Franklin, the D stands for definitely check in to talk about the trenches a little bit. Yeah. It's hilarious to me, and this I'm not here to just rile up our draft day reactions. It's also hilarious to me, Tucker, that of these tackles who we've talked about so much of the offseason, the one guy who appears to have done the most offseason and training camp work, to have missed the least amount of time, is the rookie who we were all a little bit afraid might not play football again. And he was out there for OTAs and mini camps in the varying levels that he was involved, but he's not on the PUP list today. Jawaan Taylor is. Jalen Moore, healthy enough to be out there now. I kind of like where these bookends are headed. I'm excited. I feel like this is as exciting of a day one thing as you could possibly get.
I think this is the best case scenario, right? I know Kent Swanson of KC Sports Network fame, KC Laboratory, had tweeted out, I think pretty early on in this offseason about like, hey, your 2026 offensive line could be what we just saw was today. And he was a year early on it, right? And like that was the anticipation, is that Jalen Moore would slot into the right tackle slot, but you got to a little bit of a glimpse of what that could be. I do think that this is one of the things, and people who are watching Only Weird Games, who are familiar with KC Sports Network, know kind of the stance that us at that football show and myself had about Josh Simmons, about his knee. There's a lot of concern about that coming around. And as there's been more information come out about his knee, you realize that he was maybe a little bit further along than what a lot of people anticipated. And is he recovering at a kind of a quicker clip than a lot of people do recover from that injury? Yeah, he is. I mean, I think that shows a little bit of the maturity that he has to be able to rehab from a pretty serious injury like that, to come in and seemingly be given the left tackle position of an NFL franchise that has Super Bowl aspirations right away. I think that is a huge nod for him. Patrick Mahomes was at the podium today, and he was talking about how he was super impressed with how Joshua Simmons has been so far all the way through camp. But the injuries are, I think going to like from the PUP list side of things, I think Christian Fulton's the more concerning injury out of the PUP injuries. I'm not necessarily worried about Jawaan Taylor. I think that like that'll be fine, and they have until the start of the season to come off of the PUP list. But if they come off, they can't go back on without their season being donezo. So that's going to be something to watch out for as well. But I do think that this offensive line, and we know this about Andy Reid and Andy Heck and how they like to fill out their offensive line, they're going to put the five best guys out there. whether that's Mike Caliendo at guard or whether that's maybe Wanya Morris as a guard, maybe Kingsley Suamataia. It's an interesting situation of how they're going to fill it all out. But I mean, yeah, you love to see what you saw already today, day one.
So what you just mentioned there was exactly, I was just starting to rev that engine thinking, you know what, because here's the other thing about it, why I do think it actually matters, and it's not just like, hey, he's the guy who is healthy, he's out there, don't put too many eggs in this basket. And look, man, by the time we do Thursday's show, maybe the spectrum has entirely shifted. But do you know what the Chiefs could have absolutely done today? Left tackle, Jalen Moore. Left guard, Mike Caliendo. Creed, Trey Smith, Wanya Morris.
Yeah.
That was there. They could have just done that. Wanya Morris has looked good at right tackle when he's been out there. I know it's kind of an enigma, like there's been the injury issues and having to get forced into some bad situations. Wanya Morris could have been out there and they could just say, yeah, no, Wanya Morris is our swing tackle. He's our third tackle. Not atrocious. Obviously, last year, again, and battling through the injuries, he wasn't a guy you wanted to have continuing to start, evidently. But they could have done that and trotted that out there today, and it would have been totally serious. Like, it wouldn't have just been a joke. Like, I can't believe they're pretending that Josh Simmons isn't ready to start week one. No one has declared him ready to start week one throughout this process, who I have heard. Like, the hope is that maybe he could be. The Chiefs were very optimistic from draft night. But I think I said, like, after the draft that I'd take him back at the bye week, mid-season. If he's healthy and looks like Josh Simmons in 2026, I think there was a logic to this draft pick.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're at this point now, and that it is Simmons, and to a lesser degree, but still importantly, Simmons and Kingsley being the guys that step in there, I think that there is, I don't want to call it a vote of trust necessarily because it's July 22nd. It's too early to need to trust your protection for Patrick Mahomes. They're not going to hit him. They play for his team too. But if you were at this point where you said, we don't want to put the pressure on the young guys, rookie for Simmons, new position for Kingsley, and last year Kingsley was kind of a mess. We'll just put veteran incumbents in those spots just to make sure that we set the floor. I think what the Chiefs are saying right here is that we want to see Simmons and Kingsley. We want to test them early. And as long as, again, every chance that the big vaudevillian king comes out and yanks Josh Simmons off the stage like it did for Kingsley last year, and that you go back to a more Taylor left and right tackle spot, respectively. But by sending Simmons and Kingsley out there now, they're being given an opportunity to win the job while having the job. That, again, as much as anything can, I've said this 5 times, but as much as anything can, week one or day one in training camp in shorts, I do think that matters. Tucker, unless I'm also, you mentioned Christian Fulton again.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it on Thursday. We'll see if Nate has anything new on Thursday. We'll probably talk about it next Tuesday. We'll probably talk about it next Thursday. Andy didn't sound incredibly optimistic about him. We don't have any additional info, though. I have nothing, not a peep on what's going on in his knees. I'm wait and see on Fulton for now.
Just very quickly on just the roster construction of how that all pops up. Now you talk about Christian Fulton. The quarterback room gets a little scarier when you don't have Christian Fulton in there. I've had some conversations with Craig Stout. Ever heard of him?
It becomes last year's cornerback room.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, pretty much, yes. And so, like, you're really hoping for Jalen Watson to still stay healthy, and you're going to need a little bit of something from, you already mentioned what was going on, what they were doing when they absence of Christian.
Right. Shamari Connor in the slot, or maybe
yeah.
Najee Johnson or Josh Williams.
It'd be really nice if they could, put Shamari at, like, safety, where,
yeah,
he was safety when they select him. But nevertheless, they go to the spot where it gets, like, you start staring at the depth chart, which I can't imagine Bengals fans are staring at their defensive end depth chart in much of the same way of just like, oh my gosh. Okay, so you're telling me Trey Hendrickson, he's not here. And no, you're also telling me Shamar Stewart, he's not here.
Drafted Shamar Stewart. Oh.
Yeah. Well, tough scene. But I do think there's still plenty of time for all that to play out. But as of now, I don't want to be alarmist to anyone when it comes down to it, but It gets pretty dark pretty quick. I'll say that when it comes to the cornerback position, if Christian Fulton is not able to go.
Let's go ahead and wrap it up here, Tucker. We've got a chance for us to close it down. We'll clear the under the hour mark. But you've got a clip from today's pressers that is a little bit outside of the general tone of where this show spends most of its time, but it, I think, was by far the most impactful clip of the day, and in a lot of ways, the most important clip of the day. This, in a lot of ways, well, I'll play the clip for you first, and then I'll explain how I think this ties together. A lot of things we talked about lately, but this was Trey Smith, who was asked about signing the contract and getting this deal done, being in Kansas City for the long haul, and his journey from his journey, as you'll hear here, begins before the college blood clots that threatened his career, 6th round pick, all of those things. Listen to what Trey Smith had to say on that topic earlier today in St. Joe.
I lost my mom when I was 15, and I made 2 promises to her that I'll get my degree, play in NFL. I didn't promise her I'd be the highest paid, but, I made a promise, man, and my parents sacrificed so much for me to be here. So much. And to have that moment with them, it's special, bro. It's special, and it's something I won't take for granted, man.
I mean, if that doesn't do it for you, nothing's ever going to. The fulfillment of promises made to your late mother who you lost at 15, being able to have so many of those signposts. And I have to imagine, I don't know for sure, I have to imagine Trey Smith has had plenty of moments to kind of sit with the weight of that since signing the deal, since being drafted. I'm quite confident that was not the first time he's been choked up on that topic. But for it to also all come rushing back that way in the 5,000 degree media tent at the bottom of the hill in St. Joe after the first day of training camp practice, it's all right there. It appears to be just under the surface. Something that, again, he's carried with him throughout his football playing career, and then to overachieve the promises that he made to his mom. The highest paid guard in football, no less. And then what that's going to mean for the rest of his family going forward is very, very cool. And then the one thing that almost resembles a take. This is certainly not a hot one. I'm not even sure if it's really a take or not. But there is something to paying your guys.
Yeah.
Not just in the big picture, set the culture and show that you're going to pay the guys in the building. There's something to that too. But the Chiefs have made a couple $100 million bet nearly this offseason on specifically Trey Smith and George Karlaftis, and a shorter but still expensive bet that gets closer to that 200 number on Nick Bolton.
Mm-hmm.
And the bet they have made on those players is, you have been here in this building for a number of years now. You have proven yourself as an NFL player on and off the field, not just in terms of getting in trouble or not, but in terms of playing the game in a cerebral way that makes you worth more than just your physical tools. It's always a combination, right? No one's ever in the NFL. No one's ever completely physical or completely mental. Dan Sorensen was really physically gifted, but he was able to continue his NFL career longer because of his brain. Right. You'll have incredible athletes who flame out in Jamarcus Russell, Johnny Manziel sort of level busts and all that. And then sometimes it doesn't work out. It's not a failing, it just doesn't work out. I think the Chiefs, again, this includes Bolton, but specifically thinking about Trey Smith and that clip there, and George Karlaftis also talking today, and the guy that he's been since he got to Kansas City. I think the Chiefs are saying, we know exactly who we're signing up to spend this next stage of the franchise with. And I think you've got to feel good about it being those guys. It doesn't guarantee that they're going to keep improving as players. It doesn't guarantee that they're going to earn every penny of that contract. It doesn't guarantee Jerry Jones that they're never going to get hurt, because you can't guarantee something like that. That's crazy. But I think it does just about guarantee that you are betting on the right people who have proved it on the field, and are guys who will. Seth kind of raised his eyebrows. You couldn't hear that, but Seth raised his eyebrows a little bit when Nate mentioned Chris Jones being able to hand the baton of the defense to George Karlaftis. And that's because those are two different tiers of players. They do two different things, two different positions, even literally. But the thing about that I do think makes sense is that Steve Spagnuolo is going to be on the sideline, and someday he's not going to be calling pressures up built around Chris Jones. He is going to have players on that defense who are able to bring along the next young guy who is head is spinning as a rookie, like George Karlaftis probably was when he showed up as this water polo player out of Purdue. That's not giving him quite enough credit, but this water polo player showing up, and then Frank Clark is like, hey man, here's what's going to set your NFL career up for years to come. I think that's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, it is a cool culture thing as well. I know you mentioned the culture thing was the first thing you talked about, but it is also good to see. I can't imagine if you're a guy that gets drafted to the Cincinnati Bengals and you see how they're handling all of this situation right now, or you're a guy that's getting drafted to the Kansas City Chiefs where you see that they spent a lot of draft capital in 2022 and have so far paid all of those guys and only one guy from that draft class is on another team.
Yep.
That is compelling. I mean, obviously you got to play good football and you have to be a good football player for that thing to happen. But the fact that they are playing good football, they are getting taken care of. They're not just giving money to outside guys coming in. Like that is a huge thing in the locker room and in the culture. It's like those guys have been together for 4 years. What message would that send if they were like, okay, yeah, thanks for the 4 years of your rookie deal contract. Now we're going to go give the money that you deserve to somebody else on the free agent market out here to kind of do what you do, but better. So thank you for that. But we'll see ya. We'll be along your way. I think that's huge in the locker room is that they have the ability to pay these guys. And while I do understand some of these contracts might not be palatable at the moment for a lot of these guys, it's hard to be paying a lot of money for a linebacker and a guard. You've
Right.
got the highest paid guard. Like their positional values for this team during this dynasty have not made a lot of traditional sense, but they've seemed to get it done.
Getting the
by
quarterback was so important.
yeah, the quarterback was huge, but I think that's absolutely perfect to what you said. I think that the message that it sends not only to you got to think about Xavier Worthy. Now he has a pretty decent rookie year. He's not thinking, well, I'm going to have to hit free agency to get this payday, and I'm going to have to leave Kansas City, and I'm going to have to move, and moving sucks. I mean, I don't know if anyone's moved recently, but it's like the worst thing in the world to do, and like that would not be a very fun thing to think about when you're seeing all these other guys around your team get paid. That gives you some sort of comfort to think, okay, if I do good and I have a good few seasons here, they are willing to open up the pocketbook for someone who they are homegrown. We'll say that in air quotes there. But I think that's obviously they're going to spend money in free agency. It's how it is. But the vibe and the culture that they set by that, and they've done it for really since Andy Reid got here. It feels like that they've done that a pretty good job of keeping these guys in house and keeping it where they need to be. But very impressed by that, and the Chiefs front office for getting all this stuff done too. It seems like always we're talking about like how did they actually get this done, and they do.
And it's also, it is good business if you're right. I mean, if you pay a guy early and you're wrong and he doesn't take a next step or whatever, or there's injury issues, all of those things, that can bite you. But it's like I said earlier, replacing George Karlaftis in free agency might have been more expensive than paying George Karlaftis right now. You have to decide what's worth replacing, right? Do we need to have one of the two best guards in football, the Chiefs trade away Joe Thuney, pay Trey Smith, and say, yes, we had both of them for a while. We need two of these top handful of guys now going forward. Yeah. It's a fascinating. I love talking about team building, obviously, and we're gonna have plenty of time to continue doing that throughout the offseason. Tucker, I'm gonna warn you right now. I don't end this show. So you need to think about how you're going to end this show. While I say that we will be back on Thursday, and a lot of training camp, I think, is going to have a little bit of a hectic energy to it. Appreciate everybody for sticking around for a couple of tag team swap in, swaps out, some technical difficulties and whatnot. I'm so excited to have actual training camp here. Getting real news today was electric, and we're going to have a ton to talk about as we continue throughout the offseason. Plus, I'm eternally and continually extremely grateful to everyone who has shared some congratulations with me today. I'm really looking forward to that next phase, joining the Chiefs Radio Network. If you missed any of that, it's all on socials. I'll continue to probably just say thank you until, I don't know, after the Super Bowl probably, and then maybe somewhere in there I'll settle in. But really, really fun day. Fun to get to end it with you, Tucker, but really fun to find out how you're going to get us out of here.
Josh, I do want to also say congratulations to you on the record. As it's always fun to see this too. This thing we talked about it a little bit with Nate is like we know these things are happening, And it's just like, it was announced. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that like other people don't know this. And because like Tara was like, wow, that's really cool. That's really awesome, Josh. And I was like, yeah, I feel like we already knew this. And she's like, no, I didn't. Oh, okay.
I didn't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, so like that is always very fun for me to be like, oh yeah, I thought everyone knew this. No, we didn't. Okay, but congratulations! I love the video you put out, by the way. So perfect.
Yes. Oh, yeah. If you want to watch that, you can find what I'm calling my unofficial first pregame and postgame breakdown in the parking lot at Arrowhead, 2003. My dad's asking for my thoughts. It's the game that Priest Holmes broke the single season rushing touchdown record. And according to me in 2003, also some other touchdown record there. I'm going to try to be a little bit clearer more than 20 years later going forward. But yeah, I've been working on it for a while, and apparently all those reps worked out.
Insane offensive line that he had. You and I talked about that on 21 Questions a week or so ago. Just an insane offensive line. Yeah, so to close out the show, I'm going to just default to like what I do. We still got teams left in the KCSN Foundation golf tournament. You can go get those.
Fantastic.
GiveButter.com. I think we're down to 3 teams left.
Go
so
get
GiveButter.com/KCSN Golf. You can go get them there. We got some announcements coming up, so make sure to stay tuned, locked in at KC Sports Network. Obviously, you can go to KCSN.com and you can get your newsletter, paid yearly subscription, $30 a year. If you do that right now and you're a new subscriber, we'll send you a $40 gift card to Tacos for Life. $40 gift card for a $30 subscription.
$40 Well, I talked over you and I got it wrong. That's $40 gift card, $30 newsletter.
It's crazy. Herbie Teope is out there. I've talked to Herbie 3 times.
$20 Herbie, I call him.
Exactly. It's been refreshing already to talk to Herbie about some plans we got going for training camp, all the stuff that we got rocking and rolling here at KC Sports Network. So that's going to do it. So make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure to absolutely obliterate the subscribe button. And in the comment section, drop some W's in the chat. Do all that fun stuff. 1 like button equals 100 Josh Simmons health points.
Bash that like button. Hammer that subscribe. Obliterate your browser.